Today, we are going to use the Tanium Patch module to create a patch deployment. We are using a Tanium Platform 7.3 and Patch 2.3 to achieve this goal. So to create a patch deployment, we can begin to do so in one of three ways. The first way is we can go into Patches, select a few ad hoc patches that we want to deploy, and then go ahead and click Install. The second way is we can go into Patch Lists, and then one of our patch lists that we previously created, we could go ahead and select that, go ahead and click Install from there. The third way is we can click on Deployments and then click New. All three of these methods will actually lead you to the same page. The difference between the three methods is how this will pre-populate this particular page. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give my deployment a name. I'll just call it Patching to Test Systems. And then of course the OS will be Windows. My deployment time. The difference between these two options is that here in Central Time, it's 9 a.m. If I choose browser issue or local time, it'll run at 9 a.m. Central, but really that means 10 a.m. Eastern and 7 a.m. Pacific. If I choose local endpoint time, this will run at 9 a.m. regardless of wherever that computer is located. So the reporting will be staggering because, of course, the running of the actual deployment will not all be at the same actual physical time. What I'll do here is I'll go and select local endpoint time. Next, I have a choice of creating or using a template. So I'm going to go ahead and use one of my predefined templates that I've used for myself. And what that does is pre-populates my deployment with settings that I previously used for myself. Now I can change any of these settings if I choose to do so. So in this case, I have a choice between ongoing and a single deployment. The difference between the two is that if I just want to deploy patches one time to a selection of machines, I can go ahead and select single deployment. It also has an end time, whereas an ongoing deployment does not. If I want to continually patch systems, and for example, that could be systems that are just coming on the network for the first time, or it could be systems that are already established and maybe I have new patches, I want to select an ongoing deployment that will always make it available to deploy those patches. I also have a few other additional options down here. So the first is download immediately. If I set a deployment to run at 9 p.m. and I set that instruction at 9 a.m., what will happen is that as soon as that endpoint receives that instruction at 9 a.m., it's going to start downloading those patches so that when the 9 p.m. window hits, it will go ahead and deploy those patches at 9 p.m. as opposed to downloading those patches at 9 p.m. and then installing them after. Now, distribute over time is also another good feature. If I may be using a shared storage, or maybe this is a VDI solution, I may want to actually stagger that deployment so that all of the resources in that particular system are not trying to all look for resources at the same time. Also, Tanium Patch allows you to blacklist certain patches from being installed. Now, you may not want to do that. Perhaps you have a blacklisted patch that you do want to install for some reason. You can actually override that particular blacklist. And then lastly, patch is not going to deploy without a maintenance window in place. In the particular case that maybe it's a 0-day or it's extremely important, I could go ahead and override the maintenance window that may be in effect and then just deploy those patches immediately. So we also have a restart feature, which is a binary yes or no. This is not a whether the system needs it or not question that we're asking of you. If I toggle yes to no, this notification will actually disappear. So we're not going to tell the user when we're finished that patches have been installed. Now, if I select yes, I have the option to notify the user. Now, in my particular case, and this is just my preference, I actually like to patch in the middle of the day or whenever the system is online. And the reason I like to do that is I want to make sure that systems are patched. That's the most important thing. Now, users, they should not be inconvenienced either. So what I choose to do in my particular template is I actually will set this for a very long time, for a 12-hour window for restart. I give the user the option of 1, 2, and 4 hours between the time that they see the message and then the message will pop up again. Now, for some reason, if the user is not logged in, or if end user notifications are not supported by the operating system, the actual restart notification will not happen and it will just trigger. One other thing to note is that if I, for some reason, say restart yes, and then turn off notify user, that will actually restart the system without the user even getting the option of a deadline. You want to be very careful that if you ever do use a restart to make sure to notify the user. So from here, we talked about the pre-population of this particular page. If I look at, say, for example, patch list, the second option I gave you was to open up the patch list node on the sidebar and then select a patch list that you previously created. Well, what I can do here is I can actually take that same option. I can say, you know what, I'm going to go pick my desktop updates, and I always want the latest version. And then from here, I can add another patch list if I want. I can actually add as many as I need to. Now, additionally, I can also add patches manually. So we talked about option 1, which was going to the patch node and then selecting a few ad hoc patches. I can do that as well, and then when I'm finished with that, I can go ahead and add my target. So from here I have a couple of different options. I just may want to select a few computer names, or I can go ahead and actually use one of my existing computer groups or a targeting question, which is very similar to the Tanium question builder. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and just use one of my predefined computer groups. And then from here, I show preview to continue, and it will show me the patches that I'm going to be deploying, as well as an estimate of how many clients are currently online. From here, all I need to do is click the deploy button, and I've created my patch deployment. And here we are.